Will, thank you very much. It's a honor to be with you. It's good to be back from the Devil's City. And as I used to tell somebody, I said, we're going up to the Devil's City to try to do the Lord's work. And God knows they need it up there right now. So there actually are a substantial number of folks that are fighting the good fight and talking about the issues that are important to you. When I came in, I asked Will, I said, hey, Will, are they all in here clamoring for a tax increase? Is that what they're doing in town? He said, I don't think so. But anyway, I want to say thanks to all of you, but Will in particular for what you do for small businesses across the state. You know, some of you hear about matter of fact, I think you have been hearing the Lieutenant Governor and Speaker are both, you have heard from both of those leaders. I think that's a pretty good indication about NFIB and the what the folks in this town think about small businesses. You got their ear, and that's a good thing. It's the way it should be, and it's not surprising when you think about it. Sometimes those really big businesses are the ones that get all the ink. And listen, I wouldn't trade a Samsung. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're creating the jobs that they are. But the fact of the matter is, it's those of you who have small businesses who really represent the true vibrancy of the Texas economy with the jobs that you create, the contribution to the positive economic climate that continues to help to attract people to this state. It's small business owners who are making real differences in countless lives for countless families. You know, somewhere across this great state, as we're sitting here speaking, Mr. Vanderpute, there's someone coming up with the next big idea, that the next way of doing something, a better way of doing something, something that's never been done before. And it's fostering those types of innovations that's vital to keeping Texas at the forefront of the national economy. And when those innovators are ready to go to the market, I know that it's the efforts of NFIB that'll make it easier for them to succeed and to thrive. So, on behalf of current and future Texans, people who are going to benefit from a healthy and growing small business community, I wanted to come today and thank NFIB for all that you do. Everybody knows we're facing a challenging legislative session. We've got tough decisions that are going to be thoughtfully made as we make our way through the budget writing process. And you know, at small business all across the state, around kitchen tables, same kind of decisions are being made all across this country today. Same kind of challenges to decide what's important, prioritizing, making those decisions between wants and needs, finding new ways to tighten our belts, making responsible decisions for your businesses, your families, our state. We have an obligation to the taxpayers of the state to make those same kinds of steps that you all are taking in your private lives and in your small businesses. Making government more efficient, streamlining in places where we can, cutting spending without raising your taxes. That is our responsibility, and certainly that is our goal. There's no shortage of naysayers out there who insist that Texas follow some of our neighboring states and get into the pockets of the citizens early and often, trying to avoid the tough and but necessary decisions that are required. Illinois is a good example. They just raised taxes by 66% on some of their taxpayers. I can promise you, we're out there, we're fishing in those waters for businesses. You know, there are these struggles going on all across America. People are making decisions about what kind of government they want. If you've had a radio on or read a newspaper, had the TV on in the last 3 weeks, you've certainly watched, I'm sure, with great interest what's going on in Wisconsin, and a governor there who is asking his people, or he's listening to his people, and he is colliding with those entrenched special interests that are eager to maintain the status quo at the cost to the state's taxpayers. And here in Texas, we know you can't spend and you can't tax your way to prosperity. We know that small business owners, families across the country have already given plenty throughout this recession. There's certainly truth in that right here in the state of Texas. But we're emerging from this recession in better condition than might near any state out there. Our business-friendly environment that helped us attract those new employers and attracted new jobs. These businesses were fleeing from places that were overtaxing, over-regulating, over-litigating them, and they're looking to expand or relocate to a place where they find freedom to succeed. We can expect more of them heading our way as long as we remain committed to the principles that helped us make this the best place in the world to live, to raise a family, and to do business. We have one of the, we have an unemployment rate in this state that's maintained well below the national average. Texas employers lead the creation of jobs in 2010. Our job growth last year was nearly double that of any of the big states. This legislative session, we have to take a step, or I should say we have to take every possible step to preserve that climate that's made all of that possible. You know, we had our annual gathering up in Washington, D.C. with all the different governors, from Democrat governors, Republican governors, and we met with the president, and we talked about the issues that face all of our states. But there was one interesting thing. And every time I went around the corner, Will, there was somebody pointing out, we're going to come get our jobs back from Texas. Susana Martinez over in New Mexico. Mary Fallon was talking about passing major tort reform so that she could be more competitive to the north. And Bobby Jindal, who's over on our eastern flank, if you will, he's talking about, you know, I'm going to get this state back and go gather up Rick Scott from Florida. I mean, New Jersey and Oklahoma are both in the process of passing legislation to create those, like our Enterprise Fund, Emerging Technology Fund, those incentive programs where they can be more in the game. They can compete with Texas. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, keeping our taxes low, I will tell you, is one of the most important steps that we're going to take. Dollars in your pocket do more to create jobs than any other thing out there, I believe. And I will promise you, dollars in your pocket does a whole lot more to create jobs than those dollars in government's pockets. And Will and I talked about this as I was coming in. And one of the ways to keep that scenario in place is to make sure that those 2009 tax cuts for the business tax remain in place. That small business tax relief that we saw in 2009, that $1 million exemption off of that business tax, that provided 40,000 small businesses the type of tax relief that allowed them to expand, that allowed them to go maybe buy a new piece of technology or equipment. The fact is, though, that was only temporary relief. And I hope all of you will remind your members of the legislature today that we need to make that permanent. We need to put that into the statute in Texas and keep it permanent. Balancing our budget without raising taxes is going to keep us moving forward during these tough economic times. It's going to allow us to create more jobs. It's going to allow us to create more opportunity and leaving Texas more competitive than ever. Because I'll suggest to you that there's some states out there that are just, they're gonna fold. They're gonna allow their taxes to be raised. They're gonna allow for more burden to be put on the business generators and the job creators in the state. And I'll tell you another place that we could really send a powerful message that Texas is not just still open for business, but more business friendly than it's ever been in history, and the most business friendly state in the nation. And that is to take what I consider to be the next thoughtful step in reforming our tort reform system, and that is to pass a loser pay system in the state of Texas. You know, and this is pretty simple. I mean, even the Aggies out there can understand that. I can say that because I am one. You know, the fact is when someone files a frivolous lawsuit against you or your business, then they ought to be the ones that are required to pay for the court costs and the legal expenses if they lose that case. It's that simple. It's that straightforward. It's that powerful. I told Haley Barber we were considering doing this. I think it was 6 months ago. I mentioned it to him. He said, Perry, if you pass loser pay in the state of Texas, you can put up a turnstile on the border and charge admission to get into your state, because if people want to move there in droves. And, you know, there are a number of other things besides just the loser pay part of that. Set up expedited trials and limited discovery for those lawsuits and claims that are basically small, from $10,000 to $100,000. So you don't ever have to spend the time at the courthouse and what have you. Get those over with and again, save the cost of that type of litigation and those arguments out there. Those are the type of reforms that I think would further improve our legal climate in the state and keep helping Texas business owners and send in the message that you can be here, you can risk your capital, and you're not going to be frivolously sued, which allow us to keep more of what we work hard for. And then you best decide how to redistribute that back into the economy, and instead of throwing it away on unnecessary legal fees. Those are the steps that we're going to take this session to answer a lot of the questions that people have. You know, the questions like, are we being good stewards of the taxpayers' money? And how do we create more opportunities for Texas families and small businesses? So at the end of the day, you're what Texas is all about. You're the people that really drive the engine of success for this state. If we burden the small businessmen and women with more taxation, more regulation, more litigation, if we don't continue to have accountable schools that deliver a skilled workforce for you, then we have failed. And the fact is, I want to go back to those governors' meetings and challenge those governors to come into Texas and take those jobs back to their states. Because that's the beauty of the 10th Amendment. That's the beauty of states being freed from a one-size mentality that all too often we see in Washington, D.C. For those states to decide what their business climate looks like. how they want their citizens to live. And if you want to live in a state that's, got high taxes and an onerous regulatory climate, and it's a jackpot lottery every day in the legal system, move to California. That's cool. You can go there. But if you want to live in a state that are free from overtaxation, over litigation, over regulation, we're going to keep Texas as the most business-friendly state in the nation. If you will continue to do what you're doing, pressure at points that you need to apply where they need to be applied, and to continue to allow the members of the legislature to know that small businesses are alive and well in the state of Texas. And if they'll do their job, we'll continue to do our job. God bless you. Thank you all for letting me come and be a part of this.